Hi everyone, welcome back to WesWatches. So it's 2025, in fact it is the 1st of January, and here I am talking about the predictions of what we are most likely to see on AliExpress coming this year in 2025. Now, of course we understand that AliExpress micro brands, the watches micro brands, they mostly do homages, right? They adopt and adapt very famous horology houses. They take their designs, they add their own spins on things, just like many Swiss watches do as well. The Swiss brands do the exact same thing. So these are homages, they're paying tribute to the originals, but they are mostly following suit. There are only very few brands that actually come up with their own designs. So something like Bottery, now great watches, titanium, bronze, a little bit of stainless steel, but mostly titanium and bronze, and lots of original designs. But many other brands like San Martin, Boltony, Carson, Pagani Design, and all the rest of them mostly do follow suit. So in order to make the predictions for these brands and what they're going to come up with in 2025, we need to look back. And we need to look at 2024, what actually happened to the major horology houses, to the major Swiss brands, as well as the, maybe not the super luxurious Swiss brands or high street brands, but even under $1,000. What were the main trends of 2024 in the horology world? And that's what we're going to do in this video. So we're going to break this down by dress watches, sporty watches, diver watches, as well as the field watches, and even some more complicated watches like perpetual calendars, the calendar date watches, that sort of thing. So let's kick off now and talk about what happened in the big horology world over 2024. We'll define the trends, and then we're going to use that and forecast or predict what we'll see on AliExpress watch brands. So, let's kick it off. So let's kick off this video with diver watches. Now, I love diver watches, and I'm sure many of you guys do as well, because they're just so, well, useful, right? We've got the rotating bezel, we can set the time, it's just convenient, and it looks really cool. So if we look at the watches from the high street brands, let's say under $1,000 or very close to that, what were the new releases? So of course, Tissot. Now, Tissot came out with the Seamaster 1000, and that is a pretty cool watch, but what do we see there? Well, we see a textured dial, that's the biggest thing. We've got a gradient dial, so lots of colors, the blue, the grays, the greens, but we've got that gradient, so fading to black at the rehose. Interesting design. We can also talk about the Mido Ocean Star, so also looking at about $1,000, just about, maybe just a little bit higher. What is the most prominent feature of that watch? Well, it's got a very heavily textured dial, so very waved lines, lots of ripples of sorts. So interesting, right? So we can see that, yeah, there's something happening in 2024 when these divers are coming out with textured dials, as well as maybe the wavy lines on them. Yep, we've got actually a dual color on the Ocean Star from Mido, right? So the dial is actually cut into the northern and the southern hemispheres, and they're different colors. So there is a lot of light play in that regard. Even if we talk about the Boulevard Marine Star. Now this watch is rather cheap, so it's going for about $500, obviously brand new. And there we also have a textured dial. Interesting, but I think the key to the Boulevard watch, they still highlighted this brutality of the diver watch, but they added those angled sides. So it's not just a round watch. It's not a square watch. It is a shape, a rounded shape, but with 12 angled sides on it. And that's pretty cool. Now, this is actually quite interesting because we have a Zenith Defy, which is about a $7,000 watch. So definitely very expensive, but they came out with a watch that has an octagonal shape to it. Also, sharp lines circling the case. And that is interesting. They also brought it back from way back. They've got the bright orange, and it looks pretty cool. And actually, we already have a homage to the Defy, and that's coming from Welly Merck. Now, of course, the crown is not at 4 o'clock, it's at 3 o'clock. It's more standard. It is an automatic from Welly Merck. They're offering sapphire crystal. It's a great watch, no doubt, but it costs just $100, right? Not 7,000. It is much more simple, and yet Welly Merck are on top of it, or WM, as they call themselves now. So they've rebranded. And what we can see from them is that they're jumping onto these things and they're looking at homaging and maybe doing the first steps, really leading the way, just having a look how the sales go at the back end of 2024, and will they continue with this trend into 2025. If we take a quick look at, for example, the 22-23 models, do you remember the dual crowns? So Longines, Legend. Then, of course, we had the Raymond Whale Freelancer, the dual crown one. They came out, I think, on the back end of 22, early 23. And there weren't many watches on AliExpress. There were no micro brands except for WM and Bernie that came out with dual crown watches. So only those two. So once again, right, there are trends that happen in the years before, but as I can see, AliExpress brands or micro brands, they mostly focus on the more classic designs, the iconic designs. But hey, the fans, us, the viewers of this channel, right, we want something more, we want something more brave, something more new. We want to keep in line with the trends. And hence, I think the AliExpress micro brands are becoming much more mature, and we do expect more from them. We want them to actually follow the trends through. We want to see this reduction in sizes. So more of the 39mm cases, 38mm cases. And if there is a 42mm case, great, but make sure that there's a 38 or 39 with it as well, right? Because we can see that most of the horology houses are actually reducing sizes. Like even this Zenith Defy Revival watch, that's a 37mm case diameter. But okay, enough of the details. Let's talk about the general trends in the diver watches. What we can definitely see is that we are getting the dual colored, the gradient, and the heavily textured dials. Also, we're definitely seeing this trend into more angled cases, right? So it can be a 12-sided case, it can be an 8-sided case, maybe a hexagon case. Whatever it is, those sharp angles, that is the trend for the diver watches, as well as the textured dials, of course. Now, let's jump on to field watches, military watches, pilot watches. Let's talk about it in a bit of detail. I want to specifically talk about the Hamilton Haki. Now, everybody knows that watch. That watch is, well, it's almost the trendsetter. It's been around for yonkers. And we're used to the fact that it's a stainless steel watch, it's an automatic movement, and it costs somewhere around the $500 to $700, depending on some of the complications. But what we are not used to is getting the Hamilton Haki with a quartz movement. And now it's being sold brand new from the Hamilton website for $400. You get in two sizes, the 33 and I think the 39mm cases. So very unisex, almost female size. And then we've got this more, of the larger size. So 39mm is fine, but it's all about the price. So $400 for Hamilton Haki. So this is a premium watch brand. I'm not sure if I want to call it luxury, but it's definitely a premium brand. And we all know that iconic design. All these watches, they are coming on canvas straps. You've got them in 4 colors. I think it's the green, the blue, the black, and the white. Now, the blue looks spectacular, but most importantly, it features sapphire crystal. But I've already seen the watch on gray market stores that actually offer it for as low as $250. That is super low. Now, if we think about AliExpress micro brands, like which of these brands actually feature quite a few of the military field watches? Well, in my mind, straight away, it's Boltony. There's a bit of a problem, we'll discuss it in a second. Militado, Escapement Time, and of course, RDUNAE. Now, those 4 brands, I think they're the most distinct with this military field watch aesthetic. If we talk about Boltony, I think they need to step up their game and probably lower their prices slightly, because they offer great designs with sapphire crystal, stainless steel, quartz movements, but starting from like 130, 150 bucks for, yeah, just field watches. But hey, if Hamilton is selling them fine on the grey market for $250, brand new from the Hamilton stores for $400, I'm not sure that $150 from an AliExpress micro brand is gonna cut it. They might have to drop their prices a little bit. But hey, that's what I'm just thinking. But that's the price factor. If we talk about Militado, now that's wow. For example, the ML05, so I've reviewed this piece, and what a stunner. So yeah, we get the canvas strap, we get a stainless steel bead blasted case, we get sapphire crystal that's domed, we get a hybrid quartz, so the sweeping seconds hand here, but the watch costs 40 bucks, that's it. Now that is a stunner. Escapement time, fine. Mineral crystal, 50 bucks, still not bad, very similar aesthetic. RDUNAE is a very special brand because they offer great vintage designs. So these military field watches from RDUNAE are absolutely amazing because they feel like they're coming from World War II era, or just after it, or just before it. And I love the fact that they've got plenty of designs to basically cover off the unisex, the more vintage lovers, a bit of the fluted bezels. They're really interesting designs there. Although what I don't like about RDUNAE is that most of the crystals being used are mineral crystals, so hardlex. So that's like a go between the sapphire as well as the mineral crystal. But the prices are really good. Their prices start at like 30 bucks and going up to about 50. So really interesting. But we can see that if Hamilton is doing this push downwards towards the quartz movements and is pushing the price down. So Boltony, great products, but they will have to lower the price if they want to compete and continue to sell a lot of watches. While RDUNAE, please start using sapphire, and Militado, I think you're doing a really good job here. Anyways, let's move on to some sporty watches, or the integrated bracelet watches. There have been a couple of interesting developments in 2024 that we should really discuss and talk about how it will affect the micro brands on AliExpress in 25. In regards to these sporty watches of sorts, I wouldn't call them just dress watches. They're not. I think they're more sporty, really. So the more casual watches. I want to talk about two brands that really have, well, they didn't rock the market as such, but I think they did cause a bit of the volatility, a bit of that interest and excitement, because the prices offered are absolutely amazing, mind-blowing for what we get, and very interesting designs. So firstly, let's talk about the Citizen Zen Shin. So that watch there is using super titanium coating. So it's basically, I'm not sure if it's a fully titanium case or it's just a titanium coating on a stainless steel case, but the fact is it's still titanium, so it's got very good scratch resistance. It gets an automatic movement, very interesting and very plentiful variations of textured dials, lots of colors, and what we get there is a price between 400 and 700 bucks. So very good proposition, really, from something really big out there. And these designs all come on integrated bracelets. Now, the Zen Shin have caused a bit of interest for the Citizen. I think Citizen is always in line with the trends. So the Zen Shin, definitely. Titanium, looks awesome. Textured dials, great. The only minus there, I think, is that most of the bracelets on the Zen Shin model still use pressed clasps, and that is a bit annoying. But hey, again, for this price point, not bad. Now, another sporty watch that I want to talk about is the Christopher Ward 12. Now, that watch is not mind-blowing, but it's really, really interesting because it gets a very geometrically patterned, heavily textured dial. It also features an integrated bracelet. And what can we make out of it? Well, of course, this watch is a bit more expensive than the Citizen. You're looking about $1,100 to $1,200, so it's still relatively budget. And what we see here is a lot of the colors, some pastel hues, as well as the more bright, the more strong colors. But textured dial is the way to go for 2024. And integrated bracelets, they're not going anywhere. It is still the trend. It is still looking good. Look, even if we talk about the Tissot PRXs. Now, I know we're sick and tired of that model, but hey, it's still there. They're coming out with new sizes, they're coming out with new colors. There's the quartz, there's the automatics. The prices are also very good. You're looking anywhere between $400 to $1,000, depending on the complication and the movement. But integrated bracelet watches are still the thing. So we should expect to see way more of them on AliExpress as well. And now I want to talk about more dressy watches, because we have seen some very interesting releases in 2024 that I think will affect what is happening on AliExpress as well. So dress watches are quite interesting, as in they are more simple if you think about it, right? Well, they don't have a bezel, so they're not diver watches. They might miss out on the luminosity. Not always, but sometimes they can. And we forgive them, but for their elegance, for their chic, for their definition, for their styling. And the two watch brands that I want to focus on today are, once again, they're not too expensive, but they're not exactly free either. So firstly, let's talk about Raymond Weil and their two new releases in 2024. Now, they're mostly continuations of their current models, but still interesting. So this is the Raymond Weil Millésime range. So firstly, the small seconds. Now that is an interesting design, seems very simple, but once again, lots of finesse, lots of styling to it. And this watch here, $1,900 for the small seconds, coming from Raymond Weil. Now they're also doing these small sub-dials where they're featuring the moon phase. Also very interesting, you're once again looking at about 2K, but we can see the sort of styling, right? So we've got one sub-dial and on the south hemisphere of the dial. Another interesting addition to 2024 came from Nomos, the Tangent range, right? So we know this watch, well, we know it from the homage that we see on AliExpress, heavily discounted quite a bit, right? So I'm specifically talking about the Seastar S382. I've actually done a review of it, and yeah, that watch is amazing. We get a see-through back, we get sapphire crystal, we get a very thin profile case. It's a beautiful watch with an automatic movement, absolutely spectacular, and we're paying like $60 for it, right? But of course, if we talk about the Nomos Tangent, the original, so what Seastar is paying tribute to, now this watch is $2,300. And this watch has been around way back, like decades ago, and it's still around, so it's been brought back by Nomos. But in 2024, what they did is they added 31 different color variations for this watch. 31. So sometimes you can get like a full blue dial, or you can get it blue with a bit of white and maybe an orange small seconds hand. Like lots of colors, lots of variations, 31 of them. Great. And of course the price, well, $2,300. But once again, what we're getting to is there's a lot of color. So 2024, if we talk about just all of the ranges we've been talking about, diver watches, dress watches, color is everything. Color is very important. And if you are looking at these kind of watches, for example, I've also reviewed the Thorn Tuxedo. That's a very interesting watch, very budget. Also looking at about $40-50. Interesting, but that Seastar homage, I think that's spot on and really sharp price. But I think this watch design will become a big driver on AliExpress, because again, so far we're seeing a lot of the watches which are more of the iconic designs. But if we're going to follow trends, well, someone will have to step up and do some designs along these lines. So now I want to talk about calendar watches. Now, you'd think that calendar watches are a bit, well, sort of an outlier. They're not very popular, but they are. And it seems that two brands have come up with absolutely amazing calendar watches in 2024. Now, they've been around for ages, but these are very complicated movements. They're complicated pieces. And yet, 2024 saw a huge addition of a perpetual calendar watch from IWC. And if I think to AliExpress, like, what do we have? Do we have anything at all on there that's sort of close to this, or does a similar complication for a reasonable amount of money? And the only watch I can think of is the Guanqin perpetual calendar watch, which is not really a perpetual calendar, it's just a calendar watch, and you do have to adjust the month and the year manually, but it is an automatic watch. And it was actually homaging a Longines model, and I think it did quite well, because we get a stainless steel case, we get a stainless steel bracelet, we get an automatic movement, and we're paying $40. And sapphire crystal, of course. So I think that Guanqin is actually a very interesting brand. They're usually priced very budgetly. We've got a couple models from them. They come in, they do brave designs, they do brave colors, they do brave things with premium components like sapphire crystal, stainless steel, automatic movements, but for very budget prices. And I like what they do. They are brave. They don't just go down this beaten track. They try to get out of the comfort zone. And I do want to see more from them in 2025. Now, another interesting calendar watch came out from Omega. Yep, Omega DeVille is coming up with a design where it's going to have a calendar, so a date hand. That's very interesting, very chic. And to be quite frank, I don't think I've seen anything of the likes on AliExpress. Nope. Do let me know in the comments below if there is anything of this sort on AliExpress. Because as far as I know, the calendar dates, the calendar watches are not that popular. I'm not sure why. I think they're very rich in the detail. They do provide a lot of information. And I think they do deserve to be homaged a bit more. Don't you? Anyways, so these are the sectors or the range of the watches I wanted to discuss with you today. So we talked about what happened in 2024 from the major horology houses. We know where the trends are going, so lots of texture to the dials, lots of colors, brightness. We do want to see more watches with integrated bracelets. We want to see some more of the probably calendar dates. We want to see some calendar watches coming out, right? So something with the calendar complications on there. What else? Well, potentially cases which are a bit more angled, not just round. We want to see something like what Welly Merck did on their homage of the Zenith Defy Revival. So an 8-sided shape. We do want to see something more interesting and in line with those trends. In regards to Hamilton, well, I think they've done, well, themselves a favor, but they're not doing AliExpress microbrands any favors by lowering the price of their quartz hockey to $400. But hey, it's really good to see that the premium brands are recognizing that they're being not pushed or squeezed out of the market, but they need to do something. And they're recognizing the force behind the Chinese watchmakers. And I think that is a key point, because only in a market full of competition, good competition, can we expect to get great designs and lots of value and budget propositions for us, the wearers of these watches. Anyways, thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it useful and interesting. Some of the watches that we discussed from AliExpress on this video, I will be leaving links to their listings in the description below the video, so do check them out if you're after some sharp prices. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.